Guys, my name is Sense World. I recorded this episode, now I'm re-recording it again, so here goes another 15 minutes. Alright guys, so last episode we worked on the drums, which sound like this. So we made that rhythm. If you haven't seen that video and want to learn how to do that and all the stuff we did, you can go ahead and just follow the video back to the last episode. Okay, so in the bass one, I really wanted to talk about this because this is something that I had. So the original reverb for the bass we had looks something like this. Now I'm gonna teach you guys something that is gonna totally change the way you see reverb. Reverb in itself can make something sound alive or dead. What I mean by that is if you have a big reverb and you put a lot of reverb on a sound, it tends to make it sound dead because the sound loses a lot of power. So that's why reverb can be, friendly, where like it helps you out a lot, or it can just ruin your track. So you gotta be really careful with that stuff. It's very dangerous, or so I hear. So, with every sound, you want different reverb parameters. So with our bass, what we want is we want a short reverb, and we want the reverb to give it character. We don't want it to give it the impression that it's like fucking leaving a trail, because that's not what a bass does. A bass is there to drive a track. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna alter the parameters. We're gonna decrease the size of it, which the size in the Ableton Reverb means that the size is in an algorithm. So Ableton Reverb has an algorithm, and that's how it creates the reverb effect. So it processes it through all these values and mathematics and all that funky shit. Okay, size equals the size of a room. The bigger the room, the more the reverb is gonna trail. The less the room, the more the reverb is not gonna trail. But if you've ever sang in a bathroom, you sound better. Why? Because it gives character. That reverb gives you character. So that's what we want the bass to have. We want the bass to be in the shower. So we're gonna decrease the size of it to around 9 o'clock, and we're gonna increase decay time to around 800. Okay. So without reverb, we're gonna put the reverb on now. There we have it. We decrease diffuse levels. And there we go. Okay, now let me take away all these stuff because this was from the tutorial that my voice didn't record well. It wasn't loud enough either. So we're redoing it. So we have our bass. Now we want to make our bass sound bigger. So what we're going to do is duplicate it. And we're going to put a sub. So what I want to do is use this silent here, which is the chords. We're going to change the chords up and all that good stuff too. Okay, so what I want to do is use a sub. We're going to put boomy sub, turn the saw into a sine instead, and we should be good. There we go. Increase volume. We're going to put LFO to the same one that we have for the bass, but this one's going to be a bit more powerful. So we're going to lower it a bit more. I got rid of the snap that you heard because that happens when it's not really smooth. So I moved the PWM a bit, which means the length of it gets kind of cut more, so it's more sharp, and then I smoothen it out a bit more so it doesn't give you those snaps. So you can do it here. Prevents those clicks. Okay, so now we're gonna layer the bass more. Now, a quick question, if you guys do have it, is the sub. Where should you guys put the sub? You want to put the sub in the location where, it has the most low end to it and it still sounds warm. What that means is, like, if you hear this sub, it's very powerful, and you can still hear it. Now, if I put it down an octave, you can barely hear it and there's no low end to it. So that's the lowest we can go with it. That's what we're gonna leave it at, A2. And now what we're gonna do is find another layer for our bass, which I'm thinking about just using silent, to be honest. I think we should be able to find something. Okay. We're gonna find another layer. Silent Uno, Samworld, volume 2. Okay, so what we're gonna do right now before we start on the layer is we want to get rid of the lows of our basses, the top layers. Now, why the reason we put the sub and we didn't just use the bass, the low end that comes with our preset, or if you make it yourself that comes with the sound, is because if I were to ever want to alter the sub and not the top layer of it, then I wouldn't be able to do it without altering the top layer, obviously. Now, doing it this way, where you separate the sub and the bass itself, is, I would like to say, it's professional level stuff. Now, the reason for this is because people use presets all the time, and there's nothing wrong with it. I believe that you can use presets as long as you're a good composer. Obviously, I don't really, I have nothing against it. The problem comes that you start using a lot of basses with bass, and then, it gets really muddy. So in order to prevent this, we just, take the EQs out of our top layer of bass. And which one is your top layer of the bass? The one that has the most harmonics to it, the one that you can hear better, and it has that driving power. The sub is just there to reinforce and give you that boom, boom feeling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an EQ8 on the sub. And then what I'm going to do is look at where it's at. And you guys can see it's right here. So pretty much the sub is only using these frequencies up, okay? So now I can take away from over here maybe this much from this one. So what I'm going to do is just take away. Now we're going to look for another layer. This one sounds good. We're going to take away this. Now, whenever you're creating layers, you necessarily don't want to get layers like sounds that sound fucking powerful. And I'll tell you guys right now why. So in bass 1, if you look at it, that's going to be the main portion of our sound. So we want to see where the power of this is coming from. And if we see it's in the higher frequencies, mid highs and highs. Now if we boost the low, mid lows here, we don't really lose much of it, obviously. So what we're gonna do is find another sound that's gonna complement that bass by not being powerful in the highs, but being more powerful in the mid lows. So here's our sub. We want to take this part out. See how it sounds like together. Now we want to get the volumes right. We're gonna bust these together. Our bass. We're gonna put that LFO whatever here into the bass bus. We're gonna delete it from here. Now what we have is we have separated the bass from the sub, and it sounds way better. So we have a really clean bass. We have a really professional sounding bass, dead mouse type of stuff, and Juno stuff. So this is how they get the sounds to sound really clean. And this is the secret. We layer properly, which we just did now. If you notice, bass 1 is taking the high, mid highs, and bass 2 isn't doing that. Bass 2 is covering the mid lows and lows, and that's proper layering. Now, I've seen tutorials out there where they teach layering, or they teach it really, really wrong, where you just get like 5 sounds, put them together. and hope it sounds best. No, that's totally wrong. Now, what we want to do is also take away the effects from our basses. So we're going to take the reverb and the delay off, because those are effects that we will put ourselves. And the reason we do that is because we want to put the same effects on the same layers. So again, they sound more unified. You don't want like two different reverbs, two different delays going off. Sounds dirty and it just adds up. So now what we can do is get bass 1 here. We're going to put an S1 on it, and we're going to widen it. And this is going to be the wide part of our bass. Okay, and it's going to do this. The same thing to bass 2. However, bass 2 isn't going to get widened. It's going to get unwidened. So it's going to get narrowed because it's more in the mid-lows. Now we're not going to put it fully in mono because our sub is fully in monos, but we are going to put it almost to mono, but it's still going to have some stereo to it. And now in our main bass, we can kind of alter it. So let's see where we're at in time. Okay. So we're going to try and EQ a little bit more of the bass to make it sound a bit more fatter, and we should be done with this one. Last thing we're going to do here is put a utility. We're going to put this utility in mono. We're going to put this on our sub, not on the basses. Sub. We want that sub to be in the center. Have it. Now the reason I put more sidechain on the sub was because it wasn't letting the kick that true, and we are going to do more things to the sub in order to do that in a future episode. But for now, let's just focus on our sound. And sorry, I'm talking to Eric Kaufman right now. If you guys don't know him, he does FL Studio tutorials in Spanish. So if you guys are looking for that, you guys can always head to his channel. He talks Spanish. I do too, but most of my tutorials are in English. But I'm gonna be start doing the Spanish one soon. Okay, so we have our layer here, and it's time to get it cracking with it. So we're gonna put in EQA to kind of do the final EQ on it. We would just want to take the lows out of it, not the mid lows, but just the lows, because this is where our sub is, remember? So we don't want sounds to fight with each other. We want them to take up certain frequencies, work together, and create a powerful sound together. Okay, okay, I think what we're gonna do is put a glue compressor to glue this together. Now, why a glue compressor or compressor? Compressors are the most misunderstood thing in in music. How to use them? People think they make shit loud. People think they lower volume, and what they do is they lower dynamics. Now, let me put it to you this way: the reason we would use this is because maybe one of our basses has a lot of dynamics to it, and what this means is if the bass is like dun 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 dun, like, you know, that's a huge increase in volume. Sorry if I scared you. So what we do is we compress that, so whenever the dun 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 part dun happens, that shit gets compressed, and now you'll hear the dun 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 dun. See, so you don't have that going overboard. So now what we have is, if both sounds do that, we have them at a same level. We don't lose the sound of it, but we have them at the same level, so none of them are overdoing each other. So now they sound more unified and more together. That's why we put a compressor on the master too, to fight that. Okay, so we're gonna do this. And usually, like, just don't compress over -7 or 7, and you should be good. And we use the makeup gain to make up for the volume loss. And the reason there's volume loss is because if you think about it, we have the high part of the sound and the low part. The high part is getting squished down, so that means it's getting lowered, so it's not that high anymore. So obviously we're going to lose volume. So what we do with the makeup gain is we just boost it back up, but the sound remains the same. Let's say the dynamics were like this, they're like this, you boost it up, you just move it up like that. Pretty simple stuff. But a lot of people misunderstand it. So we're going to have to call it a day, guys. It was awesome teaching you guys, and I'll see you guys next time.